proud hull now marred by the scars of countless battles. It was a ship that had explored the farthest reaches of the known universe, venturing into the darkest corners where even light feared to tread. Its mission had been to explore, but what it found was something far more sinister. Captain Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the main viewport. The stars outside seemed far away and cold, like they didn't care about what was happening to the Erebus and her crew. They'd been adrift for days, with systems failing one by one, and hope was dwindling. "Captain, we found something," Lieutenant Riley said over the intercom. Her voice was filled with a sense of urgency and fear. Hale turned, his heart racing. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "In the cargo bay." "You need to see this." The walk to the cargo bay seemed to take forever. The corridors, which had been buzzing with activity, were now eerily silent, save for the occasional flicker of failing lights. Hale's mind was racing with all kinds of possibilities, none of them good. When he got there, he saw Riley standing next to a big oval-shaped object covered in a thick layer of dust. It was a pod that hadn't been there before. "Where did this come from?" Hale asked in a quiet voice. "We're not sure, sir." "It just showed up out of nowhere." Hale moved closer, his hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. The pod was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its surface was smooth and black, absorbing the light around it. He hesitated, then reached out to touch it. As soon as he touched it, he could hear a low hum and saw the pod opening. Inside was a figure, humanoid, but not human. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and its eyes were a piercing blue that seemed to glow in the dim light. It looked like it could break easily, but there was something about it that made you feel uneasy. "Who are you?" Hale demanded, taking a step back. The figure's eyes locked on him, and it spoke in a soft, chilling voice. "My name's Leora. I'm the last of my kind. You've crossed into restricted territory." Before Hale could respond, the alarms started blaring throughout the ship. The lights got even dimmer, and the air got even colder. "What's going on?" Riley yelled, her eyes filled with panic. Leora kept her gaze fixed. "Your ship is going to be destroyed." "I'm sorry to say that this is the end." The Erebus shook violently, and the sound of metal groaning under immense pressure filled the air. Hale was trying to think of a solution, but it was clear they didn't have much time. "Lieutenant, get to the escape pods." "Right now." "But sir, I'm not sure that's the best course of action." "That's an order." Riley paused for a moment, then nodded and took off. Hale turned back to Leora. "Is there any way to stop this?" Leora shook her head slowly. "This place, this darkness, it's all consuming. It's alive and it feeds on fear and despair. You shouldn't have come here." The ship's hull started to crack, and Hale knew they only had a few minutes left. "Then why don't you come with us?" he suggested. "We can get out together." Leora's expression softened, and a hint of sadness appeared in her eyes. "I can't leave just yet. I'm tied to this place, just like you are." As the Erebus started to break apart, Hale felt a strange calm wash over him. He'd fought hard to survive and lead his crew, but now he understood. There are places in the universe where humans shouldn't go. It's too dark, and the mysteries are too terrible. As the ship was torn apart and the void closed in around them, Hale's thoughts turned to his crew. He hoped they'd found a way out, a way back to the light. But for him and Leora, there was only darkness and the eternal silence of the void. The Erebus was pretty much destroyed, but Lieutenant Riley managed to make it to the escape pods. She entered the coordinates for the nearest inhabited system and launched, just as the Erebus disintegrated behind her. As the pod picked up speed, Riley was consumed by a whirlwind of grief and terror. Captain Hale's final orders echoed in her mind, along with the chilling words of Leora. She hoped the pod's trajectory would take her to safety, but the vastness of space offered no reassurance. The hours turned into days as the escape pod hurtled through the void. The onboard systems were pretty much the only thing keeping them going, but at least they were functioning. Riley tried to get some rest, but sleep was fitful, haunted by visions of the Erebus and the pale, otherworldly figure of Leora. One night, as Riley was drifting off to sleep, she felt like she was being watched. She woke up suddenly and saw that she was surrounded by a soft, eerie glow. Leora stood before her, not in the physical sense, but as a kind of ghostly image, a projection of some kind. "Leora," Riley said quietly, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" "You're still in danger," Leora replied, her voice echoing through the small pod. "The darkness hasn't let go of you yet." Riley was suddenly very nervous. "But I managed to get away." "I'm a long way from there now." Leora's expression was sorrowful. The darkness isn't a physical place. It's a force, an entity that exists outside of time and space. It's left its mark on you, and it'll be following you. Riley was trying to wrap his mind around what Leora was saying. What can I do? How can I stop it? "There is a way," Leora said, her image flickering. "But it'll cost you a lot. You've got to go to the heart of the problem and face it head on. Then you'll be able to break its hold." Riley felt a chill run down her spine. The heart of the darkness? Where is it? "It's in the remains of the Erebus," Leora explained. "The ship's destruction created a rift, a gateway to the darkness's core. You need to go back." Riley was filled with dread at the thought of returning to the site of the Erebus's demise, but she knew there was no other choice. With shaking hands, she adjusted the pod's course, setting a trajectory back to where it all began. The journey was long and tough, and each passing moment made her more and more nervous. As the pod got closer to the coordinates of the Erebus's final resting place, Riley could see the wreckage of the ship floating in the void. The area was shrouded in a thick, impenetrable darkness, unlike anything she had ever seen before. Riley braced herself and exited the pod, navigating through the wreckage by the light of an otherworldly glow. The darkness seemed to pulse and writhe around her as if it were alive. At last, she reached the heart of the wreckage, where a swirling vortex of blackness awaited her. "Leora," Riley called out, her voice barely audible over the hum of the vortex. "I'm here." "What should I do?" Leora appeared beside her, looking more translucent than before. "You've got to go into the vortex. Face your fears and confront the darkness within. Only then can you break its hold." Riley took a deep breath and stepped into the vortex. Without a moment's hesitation, she was engulfed by a suffocating blackness. She was flooded with visions of her past, her failures, and her deepest fears. She felt the darkness closing in, ready to engulf her, but Riley was determined not to give in. She concentrated on the memories of her crew, their laughter, their friendship, and the hope they shared. She let these memories give her the strength to keep going, pushing back against the darkness with everything she had. The darkness started to recede, its grip gradually weakening. Riley felt a warmth spreading through her, a light that grew brighter and brighter until it banished the darkness entirely. She found herself standing in a vast empty space, but she wasn't alone. Leora was standing beside her, smiling. "You did it," Leora said in a quiet voice. "You broke the darkness's hold." Riley was overwhelmed with emotion. "So what's next?" "Now you're free," Leora replied. "The darkness won't be able to bother you anymore. Go on, live your life, and remember the light that guided you through the darkness." With those words, Leora disappeared, leaving Riley alone in the emptiness. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She knew she'd faced her darkest fears and come out on top. As Riley made her way back to the escape pod, she looked out into the vastness of space with a new perspective. The stars seemed brighter and the void less daunting. She set a course for the nearest colony, ready to start anew and take the lessons learned in the darkness with her. In the vast, silent expanse of the cosmos, Riley found a glimmer of hope, a beacon of light that would guide her through whatever challenges lay ahead. The darkness was vast, but it wasn't unbeatable, and she wasn't invincible either.
wing. 8 o'clock. Searching.